we're going to focus on the strum plate. And I thought that rather than assume a certain number of years with the Q chord, maybe you're just buying it, maybe you're thinking of buying it, I'm going to start at the very beginning that I know of for the strum plate, which is just, what is that strum plate? It's where you get to interpret all the music. It's broken up into multiple octaves. So let's just play the strum plate. So it's got 3 notes for every chord, and those 3 notes are in each octave, repeated just higher, higher, higher. But the strum plate is not active the whole width of that strum plate. If I start my finger here, there's nothing going on. I can run my finger all along this edge and it's quiet. It isn't until I get to the center that you start to hear it. And some on this edge, and it depends on the Q chord. Each Q chord's a little different in how sensitive it is side to side. But that matters where you put your fingers. Typically, it works best if you get your fingers in the center. Now, I tend to use 3 fingers, and the main reason for that is that this one and this, the thumb, are so short that you get your 3 fingers here in the middle, and these guys are down here where it's kind of dead. So I can't rely on the way it's going to sound with them, so I just don't use them. Other people do. Other people like to use their thumb to strum one direction, and then their other fingers in they'll do this. But I don't, because when I try it, my thumbnail scratches the surface of the strum plate, and if you scratch it too often, you damage it. I don't want to. So I got nice short nails, and I tap with just the tips of my fingers. Okay, now, so there's different ways that you can touch the strum plate to get different effects. The very, very most basic thing is you just touch it. You tap it. That's a tap. You can tap with 1 finger, 2 fingers, alternate. Now I have a quick tip out there called phrasing that shows different little exercises that I put together to get better at moving my hand in little tiny movements, so I had to have a little bit more control, and that's probably worth looking at. But we're not going to just review it today. I'm going to go into how to grow from those basics. So we've got tapping. We also have strumming. Strumming is not that. That's not a strum. That's an arpeggio. That's just running all the octaves together. But a strum is usually only about this much. It's only about 5 notes. So you may go, which is about as far as any guitar. I'm going to drop it an octave to sound more like a guitar. And turn off the auto chord stuff. So there you go. That's a basic strum, and you can strum up the octaves or down the octaves. Combine them. So if you watch it like a beginning guitar strumming video, you see them do all kinds of different things with the guitar, and you can do a lot of them with the Q chord as well. Drumming, like if you're nervous at your desk and you're just kind of going like that, that's drumming. That's what I call drumming. And so on the Q chord, it gives different effects depending on the instrument that you choose. But it's a very handy way of getting some movement and hearing more of the notes better than just the strum. Then we've got holding. Holding is simply tapping and then not taking your hand up. And it matters what instrument that you choose for holding. For example, if it's the guitar, you hear it trailing off because it only has so much sustain for the guitar. Piano, even less sustain. And it trails off. But things like the strings voice will stay there forever. It never, ever loses sustain. And the same with the organ. So when you're using one of those instruments and you're holding, it's you end up doing a lot of the music with your left hand. So you just hold that in place. And then move on. Okay, back we go to the guitar. Drop it an octave. Whenever you change voices, if you have dropped the voice is down an octave, which I like. I like the lower tones. It always defaults back to not dropped an octave, and I have to, when I change voices, I have to make sure I have that set. So that's too bad, because I'll be changing voices quite a bit in this video. Okay, so we did moving, we did holding. Now moving is simply getting from one octave to another, and it's usually using one of the other fingerings. So you could be tapping, but you're moving as well. You could be strumming. You could be drumming. Like that. And so that's moving. The more moving you do, the more interesting the song, basically. Now you're going to combine all of those together and do them in different ways, and we'll show how to actually grow from a basic strum to a more interesting strum using other features of the Q chord as we move along. Okay, now the last thing I do is I call it sliding. It's basically moving, but I'm using my ears. I am listening for specific notes. So to illustrate this, to show what I'm talking about, I got Yackety Sax. Now, Yackety Sax, my husband got me started with Yackety Sax. He said, can you do that on the Q chord? And I said, no, because it's all about a single note. It's all about a melody line that a saxophone is playing, and it's I can't do that on a Q chord. So I got it anyway, and I thought I'd see what I could do. And at first I was trying to come up with each note on the strum plate, which, it doesn't have notes marked on it. It can't, because every time you change chords, the same position, like if I hold just this one spot, it changes notes. So trying to map the sheet music to the strum plate was nearly impossible. And some of the chords, like the C chord, it doesn't have the notes in ascending order. So it became even more difficult for my brain to figure out how to find the individual notes. And I didn't want to use keyboard mode. I didn't want to use my little keyboard template, because I wanted to be able to use the built-in rhythm to go along with it. So I was a little bit stuck until I realized that what I could do is just slide until I heard the note that I wanted. In this case, let me get my mouse over here. It's the C, the higher C. And so I would slide up until I heard that, and then I just kind of slid down, watching the sheet music. See how the sheet music was going la 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 da da. So I just went until I heard that note, this lower note, and then I watched the sheet music and I went up, and just made sure that when I'm going up, I make sure that my ring finger is finding the note. When I'm going down, I make sure that my forefinger is finding the note. And then, so it's not like it's precise. If I want precise, I have to go and get a real piano or something, but it helps me hone in on it. There's also things like there's an A note here and an A note there. We're passing through this A note real quickly, and there is no A note in a C chord, so it's not going to play at all. And I just let that go. So so it's all about moving, but it's about hearing the sound. And it took me a while to and then I would just gradually speed up and speed up and speed up until I was able to get to and so when I get down to this da 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 da, I'm tapping with this finger and these two back and forth. And that one there, the G7, da da, the G7 to C. It's such a quick thing that I usually don't even tap the G7. I let the chord from the C, I go C. My hand doesn't tap down because when my left hand plays the G7, the pre-existing strum sound just changes and I don't have to strum it. It's right there. Like that. So that's called sliding. And I worked it up with the Yackety Sax song, but it turns out it's really, really useful everywhere I go to help me interpret music. So getting good at sliding is probably my big thing. Okay, now there are 99 different instruments that you can assign to the strum plate. It starts out with 10 basic ones here that you can move around in. But there's a lot more of them in your owner's manual. It goes through, there we go. It goes through them all, different kinds of pianos, different kinds of guitars and basses. And then it's got some instruments like violins and strings and tubas and trumpets and saxophones. There's a few errors in the owner's manual, nothing to, scream about. For example, down at the bottom of the owner's manual, sound effects and drums are in reversed order, so I have them in my little table here correctly. But I wanted to just point out that depending on the instrument that you choose, you're going to use your fingering slightly differently. For example, if it's a percussion instrument like a piano, you're going to do tapping a lot more. Let's see, let me just switch to the piano. Tapping and drumming. I tend to use those a lot when I'm playing the piano because the piano's percussion and that's a tap. String instruments like the guitar, I do a lot more strumming. So back we go to the guitar, drop it an octave. I still tap. Tapping is like everybody gets to tap. If it's another kind of string instrument, for example, the one called strings in your list, strings, which is orchestral strings, because they don't ever trail off, I tend to just hold and move. Maybe do a little bit of that. If it's an air instrument, well, there's two kinds. Basically, there's the kinds that can do chords, like an organ, and there's the kinds that don't, like a flute. Flute's just one note at a time. Well, if it's an organ, I also will hold and move. But the others, all the others, if they mostly produce like a single note at a time, trumpet, flute, those guys, one note, da 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 da. It's actually better, I think, to use keyboard mode, and then you're just using the Q-chord. As if you're that instrument. So let's see, flute. When I use the strum plate for them, it's just the three notes, and you can't really get a melody with just the three notes, and so I usually go back and forth between the keyboard. And if you look at my recording of the Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy, you'll see that. I started out with the trumpet sound, and then I quickly jumped to piano to actually play the song. Let's see. Okay. I was talking about, there's a few other instruments out there that are not actually normal instruments. There's a few that are specialty instruments like special effects. And you definitely want to use the keyboard for those because they have like different sounds like, dogs barking and gunshots and all kinds of cool stuff. But they're mapped to the keyboard, every single one, whereas they're not on the strum plate. You don't get every one of them. So keyboard for the one notes. Okay. How to turn your Q-chord into a metronome. When you're practicing your fingering, it's really helpful to do it to a beat. When I first started this, I had a tendency to hear a downbeat, But I waited. I would say, there it is, and then play. And I was always just a little bit lagging. So it's worth practicing just with a simple beat and, you know, turn everything off. So the way you do that, turn the whole thing off to start fresh. Turning it on, you turn off chord plus, and you turn off auto chord. Now this is a 4-state button, which means it's not just one thing on and off. It shares 2 different functions. So you can have all off, that's one state. You can have all on, so it's chord plus and auto. You can have one or the other. So 4 states. And that's too bad, because that means that there are times when I want to just switch in and out, and I actually have to poke it 3 times very quickly. Same with this guy here, that's a 4-state button. Okay, so back we go. We're doing a metronome. We've turned those 2 off. We also turn off, I turn off the bass. Now, the most basic rhythms to use to get you to just a simple metronome is country. Country is just a simple 4/4. And when I say 4/4, that means 4 beats to the measure, and a quarter note gets that beat. You don't much care about is it a quarter note for what we're doing, but it sounds like that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And I'm going to slow it down a little bit, so I'm down in the 3s. So that's a basic 4/4 metronome. The other metronome that I like to sample is the waltz, because it's a 3/4. 3/4 means it gets 3 beats to a measure. Da da da. 1 2 3. 1 2 3. And it's a different feeling. Back I go to guitar. Gives you different strumming techniques to practice. I tend to go up and down more with the waltz sound. And you want to also change your speed. The faster you go, for example, if I get it really fast, a little too fast, my movements on the strum plate become tighter. They become smaller because I've got to get from one place to another much more quickly. I make smaller movements, so it's good practice for those songs that are going to demand that you get really busy with your Q-chord. Okay, let's see. I use different tempos. After I get done with the basic 4/4 and the basic 3/4, hey, I'll go back to bossa nova. Because every one of those inspires me to do different styles of strumming. And that's actually where a lot of my different combos have been invented, is just jamming with the built-in rhythms. Once I get kind of done with one chord, I'll jam, which helps me understand chord progressions better. So I'll do that, and then after a while I'll turn back on the things that I had turned off, the bass and the auto chord and the chord plus. And it inspires me to move. More so than if I'm just doing one note. Let's see. Different rhythms, different instruments, because I mentioned before, like the piano is a percussion instrument. So I do more tapping and I do more drumming with it, and I tend to do different versions of those depending on the rhythm that I'm playing with. So you can grow all kinds of things and do all kinds of experimenting on your own with just what's built in here on the Q-chord. I mentioned that I have a quick tip on phrases, and feel free to use those and incorporate what you learned there with different rhythms and different tempos and different instruments. Now, you don't have to use that at all. You can choose to use a song to practice. For example, something simple like Happy Birthday. Happy Birthday is basically 3, maybe 4 chords. And if I start, for example, turn everything back on. Let's just start in easy play so we can sort of hear the song. So did you notice I was doing a lot of sliding to kind of get to the melody? I mean, I'm not dead on with that melody, but I'm close enough that you can say, hey, that's Happy Birthday. Okay, so that's the basic song. Go out of easy play and you know, pick a rhythm. This is not a bad rhythm. I missed the B minor. And I'm practicing moving. So I was practicing some strumming combos and moving all up and down and listening for the harmonies and the melodies. And the bossa nova was inspiring me to kind of jazz it up a bit. Now I could switch to new age. I could switch to vibes. Changes the whole feel, right? Now I'm going to do a lot more drumming. And it sounds more like a lullaby. So different instruments, different rhythms will get you lots of more different kinds of practice, and you don't get stuck just strumming and getting bored. You don't get bored when you do all these different things. And different tempos. It's amazing how tempos will change the way the rhythms seem to go. Now, for example, after you're done with the one song and many rhythms, try one rhythm with many different songs. Let's see, do I have it handy? Yes, I do. This is my Excel spreadsheet with all my songs. They're all hyperlinked so I can quickly get from one song to another. And I sorted it today to show what rhythms do I use. And I have a few songs where I don't use any, you know, no cartridge, no rhythm. But then, you know, the ballad, the built-in ballad, these are all the songs that I use. And they're not all in the same genre. I've got some country and folk, inspirational, blues. When I'm using the blues shuffle, I have a bunch of different songs that use it, and they're all different genres. So I'm going to demonstrate, let me minimize that. I'm going to demonstrate with one rhythm that's on cartridge number 1 called the 50s rock and roll rhythm. 3 little songs. So let me switch now to the cartridge and go up. And the rhythm or the tempo is 7 minus 1. So I go up to 7, go down the 1. I'm going to play the piano. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go up 3 half steps so I can sing. Okay, yeah, because I'm changing. I'm not really in the key of G. I'm up 3 half steps. Okay, so this is what the 50s rock and roll sounds like. And the chord progression, if you look across the sheet, the cheat sheet here, we are going from the 1 chord, 1 to the 6 minor, down to the 2 minor to the 5, 7, and that is the heart and soul chord progression, also known as the 50s chord progression, because it's found in so many 50s songs, like this one. So here we go. We'll add it to this rhythm. But see, this rhythm inspired what my fingers are doing here. I'm kind of bobbling between the chord and the strum plate, bum, and it inspired me to go bum bum quickly. Because that's what the music is doing. That's what the rhythm is doing, especially at that tempo, at 7-1. So, please don't send me away beyond the sea. I need you, darling, so come go with me. That's such a cute little ditty. Okay. So now that was Come and Go With Me with the 50s rock and roll and the 50s chord progression, and you saw what it did to my fingering on the strum plate. Well, let's take another song out of the 50s, The Wonder of You. Same chords. I think that's amazing. Same chords. The Wonder of You is a very different kind of song. It slows down. We're going to go all the way down to 4.0. I'm going to transpose now. We're going to just a +1 transposition. So different sound completely. So this is a much broader, it's a ballad, so bigger, bolder, and I ended up widening my fingers a little bit. I'm exaggerating here, but when I'm tapping all 3 fingers down, I'm getting as much depth as I can with this song, because I'm trying to just get it bold. And I notice that I do better with my ring finger, this guy. When I'm coming down, it's not as heavy as this finger, and so it actually glides down a little more easily, and then I'm ready. When I do this, I'm ready to tap with these 2 guys. When I come down with all 3, it ends up a little more muddy sounding. Just a little thing. I'm never going to get this song going. When no one else can understand me, when everything I do is wrong, you give me hope and consolation. You give me strength to carry on, and you're always there to lend a hand. Okay, so did you see how that we've got the same rhythm, we've got the same chord progression, we've got different fingering because of the song, because of the tempo, how slow that one goes. Okay, so now the third song that I wanted to show, same rhythm, even slower. We're going all the way down to 3.0, still using the piano, same key, but now you see it's so slow. It sounds like it's the last dance, right? Everybody's all kind of hanging on each other's shoulders. Goodnight, sweetheart, well, it's time to go. And that part there, I don't know, do you remember the bass man? The bass man would go bo-do-dee-o-do, much lower. So my bo-do-de-o-do is going to be my fingers up here. Like that. And I practiced that to get that little signature sound to put into place. Goodnight, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. Goodnight, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. I hate to leave you, but I really must say, oh, good night, sweetheart. Good night. Good night, sweetheart. Good night. Good night, sweetheart. Good night. Okay, I love that. It's so fun. So, okay, so this song, even though I'm using that same rhythm and I'm using the same chord progression, it caused me, by the way the words, the cadence of the words, the beat, the underlying beat, caused me to do a lot more da-da-da-da sounds, you know. Good night, sweetheart, good night. So I learned a different technique doing this song. So lots of different songs, same rhythms, you grow. You just can't hardly help it. Let's do another rhythm here for fun. We're going to do the cha-cha. Yeah, when I first looked at the cha-cha, I skipped over the cha-cha so many times because I thought, I'm not dancing and I'm not, you know, I don't know anything about Latin music. So I was wrong. Turns out the cha-cha is a very versatile little rhythm if you slow it down. So let's go down to number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here I've got it on a Judd's song down at 4. Rhythm is 4. Turn off chord plus, just my choice. Now I had to do some tinkering with this. I had to transpose it down 5 and play in the key of C. And the reason I had to do that was because this chord here, the second chord, I needed to be chromatic. I needed it to go da da da, and we know the G will do that. And the reason for that is because I was listening to this song and the way the Judds do it. They have a guitar riff at the very beginning, their lead in, and he kind of goes bling, chugga, bling, da 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 da. So he goes da da da, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it was very chromatic. And I wanted to get some of that feeling into how I was going to play, and I couldn't do that when I had it in the key of G because that was going to be a D chord in this second position, and it's not chromatic. So I transposed it and then have to use my transpose down 5 to get the that part. So oh, silly girl, I wasn't ready. I need to switch to guitar or it doesn't sound right in my head at all. All right. So just learning this song, just picking up this song, I got better at more of a snappy kind of strum. If you hear her cry at night, then I'll turn on your light. Maybe your baby's got the blues. And she said there's nothing wrong. She just wants to be alone. You can bet your baby's got the blues. So this song with the cha-cha got me to where I was going cha-cha back and forth pretty quickly with a very specific, it's a more aggressive strum. It was good practice for me. So I like the cha-cha, nice and slow on this one. But then Grandpa, another Judd song, simple 3-chord song, little faster on the rhythm, 5.1, and I turn the chord plus back on. Only this time, and let's hear this. There's a kind of a brick sound in it that is part of the percussion, and I didn't really like it in this song, so I turn it down over here. Turn this volume down, and it turns down the drums and all the things that drummers have. So now you don't hear it as much. It's much more subdued. I didn't turn it all the way off, but I softened it. Oh, I've got the wrong key. My mistake. Got to go up. Yeah, +1. Sorry. Oops. Oh, that's better. Now this one, it's sort of a light touch. It's still strumming, but it's not a huge strum. It's not as broad, and it's quick. I'm going back and forth pretty quickly. So I found that instead of going side to side on the strum, I'm actually going up and down, kind of at a 45-degree angle from these lines. But it gets a nice little strum sound with almost no movement, so it's easy. It feels good too. It just feels good to do it that way. Grandpa, tell me about the good old days. Sometimes it feels like this world's gone crazy. Grandpa, take me back to yesterday, when the line between right and wrong didn't seem so hazy. So this song taught me a whole lot about moving little strums and going all up and down the strum plate, hearing the accents. Lot of practice just to do that, and it's a simple 3-chord country, but it's using the cha-cha, and the cha-cha inspired my hands to want to get around. Okay, so let's see. The last cha-cha, I did a whole video on your song and the cha-cha, using the cha-cha on it, but I'm bringing it back just for a quick review. 6, 1, 2. Piano. This time we're going to use the piano with the cha-cha, and then that changes all kinds of stuff. Let's put the drummers back. So it's faster, and that changes the way my hand's going to work. And the accompaniment had a specific style to play with, and so I'm going to be listening as I play to get the notes in the right order. And it's the wrong key. Darn it. All right. That's better. That was sliding. It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. I'm not one of those who can easily hide. I don't have much money, but boy, if I did, I'd buy a big house where all we both could live. So this this song has me doing a lot of da 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 da, and that took practice because it's moving down. My tendency is to want to move up, and so I had to practice moving down, and it's a little bit syncopated. Da 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 da. So here we are with the cha-cha, different instrument, different fingering techniques. So use lots and lots of songs to get lots and lots of styles. Okay, let's see. I wanted to talk about just, how do you be an accompanist? There's basically three things that an accompaniment has to provide. It's got to provide chords and rhythm, because it's the foundation. It helps the singer or whoever's doing the lead get situated and know what the song is going to be. But there's a lot more to it than that. I mean, if all it was chords and rhythm, then if I were to play your song, all I'd have to do is I've got my rhythm set up. And here's the intro. It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. I'm not one of those. You can see, it's a whole lot sleepier. You really need to have the Strumplate in there. And what the Strumplate's going to bring is support for the melody, which you were noticing. You were saying, hey, I can hear that melody in there. And it provides some dramatic effect. So it's going to boost the melody, it's going to contrast the melody, it's going to add depth where a singer, can only get louder. So how do we do that? Some specific actions that we can take. Actions. Well, first of all, I love to listen to the music that somebody else already did. So I go out to YouTube or I go someplace where the music is and I listen. I'm listening to the accompaniment. What are they doing? How many instruments? What are the instruments? Which are the featured instruments? How come? And as I listen, I think, oh, I like that. How can I do that on the Q-chord? And then I go off and I play with the Q-chord and try and come up with some kind of fingering here that is reminiscent, at least, of what I heard. I'm listening also for a riff or a fingering pattern. We heard that on the Goodnight Sweetheart, Goodnight. I heard the bass man go bo do de yo do. Well, to me that's like a signature sound for that song. And I listen for those and I try and come up with something on the Q chord that's like that. I learn a lot by imitation. Let's see. Like I already said, I echo the melody as much as I can. I mirror it. For example, if the melody's going to go la da 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 da, I'm going to go da 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 on the Q chord. We go opposite directions and it gives some interest to the song. So I'll do that. One of my favorite things to do is I start a movement in one chord and finish in another. And I've already done that today. I did it in your song. Let's see. Right here we go. It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. At the very end of inside. Let's see. It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. Did you hear it? So we're here. That movement, da 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 da, I end on the A minor. I was playing in the E minor, so I start this movement and then I finish on another chord. I love to do that. It's kind of like traveling and reaching a destination. It's kind of the feeling that gives. And I do it in a lot of songs. I'm not sure where I picked that up. Maybe Mom did it. I don't know. Okay, let's see. Oh, if you're playing with somebody and they've got the main melody line, back off. So if you're doing your intro, now it's their turn, you back off. You're not going to be like this while they're singing because you're stepping all over them. So it's a give and take. It's their turn, then it's your turn. And when it's your turn and they're just holding a note, I call those empty spots. That's when you do the riffs and you do those signature sounds that you copied. Yeah, that's where they go. I also like to use musical sound effects. For example, if a song says, you know, they're knocking at your door, I'll do that. You'll hear me going like someone's knocking. Or if I talk about the phone is ringing, you know, answer the phone, you'll hear me go. It's kind of like the phone rang. So I add little musical sound effects. I don't do it all the time, and I don't do it in every song, but it's fun, and it boosts the lyrics. That's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to say, see, I'm part of that lyric as well. I love trying to figure out how to imitate with my Q chord, and I think as I keep growing, eventually I'll be creative. Right now, not yet. I still have so much more to grow. But I love the process. I've enjoyed it even way back when I just had my Q chord, week 1. Even though I was so clunky with it, I still had fun. I've had fun since day 1. Now, okay, so specifically, the Q chord has some features that I use that can be very handy. I'll use the intro button, and it's also the endings button. Same button, depends on when you poke it. But I wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit. So, you know, here's a basic rhythm playing. If I hit the intro button first and then start to play, it comes up with an introduction. But a lot of times it's going to go through different chords as it does it. Let's see, maybe the bossa nova's intro. Yeah, see, the bossa nova just changed chords and changed again. And now we're into the regular rhythm. So I don't play along when I'm playing an intro or an ending, because if I play along, the Strumplate's only going to play in the chord that I had pressed. So if I say intro, it clashes horribly. Horrible. So I don't do that. I stay off of it, and when they're just done, like in an intro, it's pretty quick. Now we're in the right chord. I take over. So I time it so that I pick up just at the end of their fancy stuff. The same with endings. I get off before the ending thingy starts. So there's some trade-offs, and it takes some practice to get the right timing there and know what the heck you're going to do to get off before they come in. Otherwise, you step all over each other. Okay, I also use fill and stop. I turn the auto chord on and off, and we've seen that. And I'm starting to use manual chord on and off. That's new. I just started that this month. So I have a couple of songs to show, to demonstrate. Okay, so Lost in the 50s tonight. It's not a 50s song, but I'm going to use the 50s rhythm because it's a 50s, it's like a tribute song. It's a love letter to the 50s music. And we'll slow it way down. We're going all the way down to 2. And I'm going to use the vibes, and the reason I chose vibes instead of guitar is that this is going to sound kind of like a dreamy kind of lullaby. At least that's my goal. How do you get the rhythm to start playing? What do you mean? Marilyn, I don't understand that question. How do you get the rhythm to start playing? It's going to start as soon as I play a chord. I have it set up to go. I've got all my, chord plus is on, auto chord is on, easy play is off, and it plays. If I hit the intro button first, it's kind of like cocking it. Now I press, it's going to start the intro. Here's the intro. And then when the intro's done, it automatically goes into the chord play. See, I'm not doing anything. And then now here we've got the chord. I hope that answers that question. Okay, so we're going to do that here. Back to my little sheet music. I've got this set up. I say I want to do the intro. The slash is my shorthand for poke that button. So slash intro means poke the intro button. Yes, easy play has to be off. Easy play means no rhythm. That's really all it means. So yeah, turn easy play off. Now you've got your rhythms. All right, so intro, and I'm going to play in C, and the little box around it means the key of C to me. I made that up. So this is, I don't know, I kind of imagine a couple in front of a fireplace, a glass of wine, having a little dance all by themselves. Close your eyes, baby, follow my heart. Call on the memories here in the dark. Let the magic take us away, back to the feeling we shared when they play in the still. Hold me tight. Ooh, shoot-do, sorry. So right, lost in the 50s tonight. Okay, so let's review. We saw how I use the intro button, but you noticed I hit the stop button right here before the chorus, before the downbeat in the chorus, and I had to. I didn't do that for dramatic effect. It turns out that when you get to the end of this verse here, this we shared when they'd play, they added 2 extra beats here. If you look at the real sheet music, it goes from 4/4 to 2/4. They add 2 more beats. And if I don't hit the stop here, the rhythm is off. And it shows glaringly when I hit the fill button, and I'll show you. So we'll go back to the DM7. Back to the feeling we shared when they played. No stop. In the still of the night. Hold me, darling, hold me tight. Oh, shoot-do, sounds okay. Shoot-do, so real, but it's not. So right, lost in the 50s tonight. There it is, see? Did you see? It had those extra beats because the fill always goes to the end of a measure and starts fresh. And so it highlighted that I was off by 2 beats because of the 2 extra added here. So in order to not have that problem, because I really wanted a fill here, I wanted that drama, I had to use a stop here so that I could get back on track here. That took some doing to sort out that that was the problem. Now I know. So now my rule is anytime I use a fill and it doesn't sound right for whatever reason, I kind of go back through the music and say, oh, I could put in a quick stop here and then I'm on track. So anytime I get lost in music, I'll tuck in a stop to get resynchronized. Happens anytime there's some major, hold. There are songs where they'll have that little circle symbol that says hold indefinitely. And if you do that with the rhythm, there's no way to tell the Q chord, hey, I'm holding, you got to hold. There's no hold button. There's no delay button. I'd like to have one. Okay, all right. So, this is the last song. Now, this song I'm just getting started with. Mary, did you know I think I picked it up 3 weeks ago. But it is loaded with drama. I went to the YouTube video showing the Gaithers doing it, and it starts out, their version starts out with the singer and a piano, and the piano is very subdued, just little tinklies, very, very quiet. So he's starting out small, and the singer's starting out small, and then it builds. The piano gets bigger and more involved, and then soon there's an orchestra, and then soon there's backup singers, and it just becomes this big, powerful sound. And then they back it way down again. It gets real small and intimate sounding, and then big again. And I thought, oh my gosh, how do I do that with the Q-chord buttons? I can't use the volume mid-song. I can't, because it requires pretty fine adjustments, and I can't focus on those fine adjustments while I'm playing. I would need another brain to do that. So I don't do that. But what I can control is the amount of stuff that's going on by turning on Chord Plus, Auto Chord. I can adjust those, and I can adjust chord, manual chord on and off. So I did that in this song. I'm going to get some water. So let's just look. I start out with no Chord Plus and no audio. I'm doing a simple ballad. So we'll go back to the built-in rhythms. Down we go to ballad, and slow it down to 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm using the piano. Oh, and one thing I do with the piano, every time I choose the piano, I change the sustain. The built-in piano's sustain level isn't long enough for me, because I want to be able to move my hands around and not have to hold the notes as much. So I bump it up like 2, sometimes 3, just to give the piano more sustain, and that it frees me up a little bit. So you'll see that. Okay, so we get down in here, and we start out with no Chord Plus, no audio. So it'll just be, me and the bass notes. And then we get past the first verse, and then I'm going to add chord and auto back in for the next stretch, and we'll stick with that for a couple of verses. And past the bridge, I'm going to then turn manual chord on, but only for a couple of lines, and then manual chords going off. So let's see how all of that translates into drama. Mary, did you know that your baby boy would someday walk on water? Mary, did you know that your baby boy would save our sons and daughters? Did you know that your baby boy has come to make you new? This child that you delivered will soon deliver you. Mary, did you know that your baby boy will give sight to a blind man? Mary, did you know that your baby boy would calm a storm with his hand? Did you know that your baby boy has walked where angels trod? When you kissed your little baby, you've kissed the face of God. The blind will see, the deaf will hear, the dead will live again. The lame will leap, the dumb will speak the praises of the Lamb. Mary, did you know that your baby boy nation. Mary, did you know your baby boy will one day rule the nations? Did you know that your baby boy is heaven's perfect lamb? The sleeping child you're holding is the great I am. There you are. And that's the only time I can mess around with volume, is to trail off at the end. Okay, so did you hear all the differences? I was able to create some dramatical changes by just using these buttons, but it can be a bit of a pain, because I can start out with both of these guys turned off, and it's only one button press to get them both turned on. But when I turned manual chord on, that was one button press, but now to go back to turn off manual chord and have the autos do their thing, that took 3 button presses, and I had to work the timing. And it actually, because it took 3 button presses, I was focused here and I got off a little bit on the chords. I was like, whoa, wait, where am I in the music? That's why I wish there was 2 more buttons. I'd much rather be able to just go poke, poke, and get on with it. Okay, I think that's it. Thanks for joining me. I hope this is helpful to some folks. There's a lot to be learned with the Strumplate, and you can take it at your own pace. The more you listen to other instruments and what they're doing and see what you can do to imitate, the better. Do things you think you can't do. I didn't think I could do Yackety Sax, and it really stretched me, and I got a whole lot better as a result.